Eike Batista, who was the world's eighth richest man last year. Now he's not even a billionaire.
It's one of the worst wealth losses in history, as far as we can see. Eike Batista was the 8th richest person in the world last March. He was worth $34.5 billion. He was in the leagues of Carlos Slim, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. He's now worth $200 million. You've seen his commodities empire, which really controlled all of the major assets in Brazil, in oil, mining, shipping. All of them have tanked. He's now mired in debt, and we found some more debt, and so it turns out he has less than $1 billion in net worth.
This is a guy that insisted he would be number one,
That's
right?
right?
He had a $500,000 Mercedes in his living room.
That's right.
He's been called the Donald Trump of Brazil. You say this is one of the historic falls.
It really is, because if you think about the scale of how much this guy was actually worth in all of the industries that he touched, he was the face of Brazilian capitalism as Brazil sort of made its way into real, going from emerging markets to developed markets. And now it's really a tragic fall for him. But yes, he went out and he said, "I'm going to be the richest person in the world. I'm going to pass Carlos Slim," and he was very adamant and outspoken about it. Most billionaires don't typically go out and say how rich they're going to become, and usually he predicted the date. He predicted the date would be 2015. Well, now it's 2013. He's got a long, long way to go back.
He's got a little bit of time. How did you get the news, though, that he was no longer a billionaire?
Well, actually, we have reporters on a lot of different teams at Bloomberg News, and what we were looking for was this debt. So this sovereign wealth fund called Mubadala actually put $2 billion in equity into EBX, which is his holding company. EBX, or Mubadala, had an option to turn that into debt. They did, and so it turned out he paid down $500 million of it, and he still owes $1.5 billion in debt, and that's what took place.
Are there any lessons from Batista's stories? I mean, I know his fortune was very tied with resources and commodities, which is obviously a sector that we've seen really come down. But is there a broader lesson?
Really, for Batista, it was always that he and his companies tended to oversell the amount of resources they had in these commodities upstarts. So they would take a company public and they would say, "We have X number of oil reserves out in the ocean." It turns out it was a third of what they said, and so the stock would plummet. They were constantly having to borrow against one company to pay for the needs of others, and so it was this traditional oversell. And so he may have sort of been the Donald Trump of Brazil, in that he kept having to amplify the fact that he was a billionaire in order to sort of prove his worth.